Thank you.
It's not the most unusual place to see a police officer.
Good morning. Can I get a cup of coffee?
In fact, it's quite ordinary. But these particular cops in these particular coffee-serving establishments are here for more than a good cup of joe. They're here to listen to you.
Wow. Why aren't you drinking a lot of coffee? You've been up since 4.
It's called the Coffee with a Cop program, where city police officers come to local cafes and restaurants and make themselves available to answer questions from the public. Its goal is to improve communication between the police department and the community.
It sort of goes back to the old-fashioned way of doing policing, really, and getting out of the police car and, actually conversing with people and not waiting for them to call us for an emergency or a call for service.
I think it's great, as opposed to maybe a city council meeting or having to go meet with an officer at a police station. I think this is a great way, a good community outreach.
Coffee with a Cop has been tried in just a few other communities, but thanks to the overwhelmingly positive response, there is now a movement to take it nationwide. The force behind Santa Barbara's version is Officer Kasi Beute.
Coffee shops have become kind of a venue to relax, hang out. It's very casual, and so it's just a really nice, relaxing venue so that people can come and visit, and we can get to know each other. Some people come and they just want to hang out with us. Other ones have specific concerns.
And so far, the variety of concerns has been as wide as the choices on the menu.
Some we've never heard before, some really huge concerns from certain communities that thought there was nothing they could do about it. We're actually talking about at these meetings. Some groups come as a group and say, hey, why aren't you doing this? And that's what we want to hear. There's one thing to be the doctor, but if you don't go to the patient and ask them what's hurting, then you're just going to be guessing and hoping that you're doing the right thing. This is part of that process of enhancing the way we do community policing and going to the client and saying, what can we do for you that's better? And we have to, own what we buy when we ask that question.
I told Detective Drayton that I like visibility. I like seeing him. I like seeing him drive around. I like to see him talk to people. I think if I see him, then criminals see him.
Quality of life issues that aren't what people would consider 911 calls. Neighborhood disputes, my neighbor and I aren't getting along, he's cutting my hedge, he's parking in front of my house, and then we can go and we can mediate, and we can talk to them and really, help them deal with the quality of life to make it better. And then the citizens feel like they're heard, which is fantastic. When we did this downtown, we had a lot of transient issues from the business owners and businesses talking about that. School neighborhoods talk about people driving too fast during school hours. So then we talk to the traffic department, and we are able to deploy motor officers in different areas where people, feel like they need them, so they see them there.
But Coffee with a Cop is about more than customer feedback. It's also an opportunity for residents to get to know the person behind the badge.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of things to talk about. I asked him about his job and what he does all day, and where he lives. He lives around here.
And this, officers say, is where Coffee with a Cop really pays off.
We want everybody to feel comfortable coming to us and talking to us, so they do feel comfortable calling 911 they need to, or they do feel comfortable contacting us and saying, some people need that emergency, they need that 911 thing. We want people to know if something just doesn't seem right, just seems off, then call us.
So she said, we never mind being called. Whether we can get to you or not depends on the workload and what else is going on this morning, which I thought was interesting, because there have been a couple times like, well, I really wish I could report that. Well, no, they're going to ask me what the emergency is, and there's no emergency. So that was sort of interesting.
And that comfort level with contacting law enforcement can mean the difference between a theft report and an arrest.
We had recently had a neighbor, a resident call us and say, my neighbor's on vacation, I think, and there's somebody in the backyard I don't recognize. That's a very simple, doesn't seem right. When we got there, the guy that was in the backyard was walking out with the jewelry. So we caught, somebody that had basically burglarized a house because the neighbor saw something and called us because it didn't look right.
And the benefits of the Coffee with a Cop program aren't limited to just the public.
How are you?
Good, how are you? A lot of what we deal with is 90% of our time going to 8% of the population. And as an officer, and a lot of people, their only contact is when they're getting pulled over, right, that kind of thing. The officers that deal day in and day out with arresting the criminals and dealing with that, get to come and visit and have this kind of positive reinforcement. So it's good for us too. It's good for morale. It's good for the officers. You know, we love when people say thank you for what you do, and especially in light of, you know, the tragedies that have just occurred, and when people remember that we're here for them.
In an age when technology has diminished the need for face-to-face contact, Coffee with a Cop harkens back to a time when citizens knew their police officers by their first names, a time of handshakes instead of pokes, and a time when what had to be said took more than 140 characters. What these officers have found is often it takes just enough time to share a cup of coffee.
And you know people by going around and talking to people, and it's not high tech. It's just, you just got to do it. So
it's a bit of the old school.
Yeah, I hope the new school doesn't erase the old school.
I never would have walked into the police department and said, you know, I want to talk to you about State Street. So it was convenient. It made it easy to talk to them about an issue that you have if you want to.